an international speaker, an entrepreneur. She's also an expert at creating very, very yummy recipes with keeping in mind the diet. I'm a big fan of hers. I did not really know I would get to host her because she'd come up with a program, a 14 days program, where you're talking about wellness, and I had just signed up for it, and coincidentally got to know the speaker and got to know her personally. She's a wonderful person to know, and I would not take much time. I would directly jump into introducing her. And Kiru, welcome today to our platform. And please tell us about your journey, and then we will get into the question answers. But I'm sure everybody wants to know because the topic is amazing. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Renira and team, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. And of course, thank you to all of you who had made it for today. Because, our life is all about the choices that we make. And health is a matter of choice too. So today I travel around the world teaching health and helping people to transform their lives and their bodies. And I only do this because, there was a time in my life, health was the last thing in my agenda. So once I graduated as a pharmacologist in the UK, I moved back home and I shifted my career from the biomedical research into corporate life. So I was doing two jobs. I was actually working in a corporate and running my business as well. And my job was demanding and my business was growing. And of course, I had to put in longer hours. And I did that by sacrificing my sleep and my health. So I slept nearly 3 to 4 hours every day, woke up dead tired, and was really stressed. And on top of that, I was starting to gaining weight as well. I'm sure many of you in this forum right now can relate to this, right? I can see Renera shaking your head. You know, day by day, this got worse. My stress was hiking up, and I began to get into this comfort eating habit. You know, anyone have you ever tried this? Every time you're stressed, you go and grab a tub of ice cream, or you get into the chocolate and indulge all those things, and you think, oh, this is going to just relieve you from the stress, right? Anyone? I'm sure you're on
Oh,
your hairs, although I can't see
we
everyone.
all have our favorites on that one. Yes.
And that's
Guilty.
so that's so common, right? So I actually got used to that, and I believed it's going to help me. So I ignored all my body calls. My body was literally calling out for help. The dull skin I ignored, the hormonal imbalance I ignored, the digestive issues, the bloated, oh man, you name it, like the hair loss and even the brain fog. Like I lost my confidence. And beyond those, every time there was a flu around, I'll be the first to fall sick. And I was actually going into strong antibiotics and a lot of medications. None of those worked. And it just made things worse, actually. So, serious conditions comes with a small symptom, whether you choose to acknowledge those or not. So, yes, I was literally going into a burnout and I was literally losing myself. So you see, the good lessons in life doesn't come wrapped with a bow. It just comes wrapped in sandpaper. It comes wrapped with lots of pain and hurt. And my lesson came the same way. And when I had that lesson, I chose to rewrite my story. I chose health, and I chose to pay attention to my body calls, and I chose to show some self love. I literally chose life. So I went into this healing, the three pillars of healing: healing with movement, healing food and mindset. And I furthered my research and got into integrative nutrition and moved to Dubai. It was literally a health revolution for me. Like it was mentally a revolution, emotionally, financially, and even physically. So since then, I was able to recreate the life I was desiring to live. And today, I live a life with optimal health and balance. And here I am for you to serve you guys and help you in any means.
Thank you so much, Kiru. I really wanted them to know your journey because I know your story has a lot of experience of your own. You've gone through all of this. You've been in that space where, all sleep deprived and stress, everything has taken over, and you've come out of it. And I know I have also been there. And I know a lot of people who are still struggling with all of those things. And that's the reason I just wanted you to, introduce yourself and tell people that you've been there. I have a set of questions that I would really like to ask you. And I'm hoping that I cover up most of the questions that are related to all of the people because weight loss is a very personal topic for everyone, and not everyone is vocal about it. So,
Hmm.
I'm just hoping that we can answer as many questions as we can today. I'm going to dive in directly into the main question and just hit the nail as hard as I can and ask you what are the main causes of weight gain?
Okay, when we think about weight gain, right? Weight gain is mainly related to two things: your habits and your choices. That's like the major things. So when I say habits, it's it's basically the food choices that you're making, and then the sleeping habits, your choices in, do you want to choose to move your body a bit, are you exercising or not, and the environment you're living in, and the quality of the food, the quality of the water that you're drinking, are you drinking enough water, and the toxins in your environment, all these counts. But like got into this belief of thinking, okay, weight loss means it's your diet or you got to work out hard. So this is all what you, or you just deprive yourself from all this um, lovely food that you want to indulge in. So it's not literally that. So that's basically what I wanted to start by saying, okay, these are the main causes and main areas that you need to be thinking about. And yeah, do you want me to go into details, or you have another question?
No, I would love for you to go into details. In fact, I was going to ask you a question, and even Tulika had the same question. When you talk about quality of water, what exactly are you referring to?
So basically, what I meant was um, the quality of water is basically, are you drinking the right type of water in terms of, um, if you're drinking bottled water, you got to be aware that there's so much of toxins in the plastic, and these bottles are exposed to the direct sun. So we are aware of some of the BPA, that plastic toxins, this new toxins, and these are some of these toxins are literally going to cause you to gain weight or will drop, prevent you losing those weight, because these toxins will be literally stored in your cellular level as fat as well. So, I mean, if you really want to look at, is the first good point is to, okay, we should be looking at the food that you're eating, right?
Yes.
So yes, water is one, and then you need to also look at the quality of the food that you eat and the type of food that you're eating. So those are like basically the main, if I to tell you, okay, let's talk a little bit about the food, because I'm sure there will be a lot of concerns about the food, and
Yes,
we
I do have a question.
okay.
I was going to ask you about the food habits next because I know all of us have a very different routine when it comes to eating food and our timings and all of these things. But before we get into the food habits, do you think there are any particular aspects that has got us to the stage where we are? Like in pandemic, I know a lot of people are suffering with weight gain specifically during this time. And I don't think just because we are staying at home, that's the reason. But I do feel that it does have a lot of, accumulative reasons why we are where we are with people who put on weight. I myself put on about 3 or 4 kgs in the pandemic, and it annoys me. And please tell us about the food habits and what are we doing wrong, or where we can, just get this thing rectified.
So basically, if we look at the pandemic time, there's so many things that changed around our lifestyle, right? So the lockdown literally brought in so much of uncertainty, and people got into fear, and there was so much of stress than the usual as well. So the first, I can take you down with a couple of examples and main causes we can list. So basically, the first one would be to answer your questions on food. So when we think about uh, weight gain, we tend to think, okay, it's a fat problem. Those days, it was the way that it was emphasized. Okay, weight gain is a fat problem. But the real truth, according to the studies, it had been proved weight gain is actually a sugar problem. So you got to be away from the bad sugars, right? The added sugars. So when I say sugar, I'm not only talking about the sugar that you add in your tea or coffee, it's the sugar that is hidden in your food, right? It starts from the sugar that you find in your breakfast cereal, the sugar that you find in your sauces, the sugar that you find in your concentrated fruit juice, the sugar that you find in your carbonated drinks, and of course, energy drinks and non fat yogurts, and also obvious ones, the bakery goodies, the desserts, all these things have added sugar, right? And the next food that you need to look at is the refined carbs, like the carbs, like what you find in pasta, the breads. Those are the carbs I'm talking about. And then lastly, you need to also look at the fat, the bad fats. Now, when I say bad fats, it's like the fats, the trans fats, or the saturated fats, the omega 6 rich fats, which is your sunflower oil, vegetable oil, your soy oil, all these guys are not good. So basically, when you eat, and if it is like something rich in carbohydrate or protein, it's going to cause an immediate hike in your blood insulin level. So if, and especially when insulin rises, that means you're in trouble, because insulin is a fat storing hormone. So more insulin means you're going to gain fat or gain weight more. So that's the basic understanding. And for you to remember, it's easy if you can say, if you can remember in this way: carbohydrates will hike the insulin the highest, and protein will be moderate, and good fats, you won't have any hike or zero hikes for that matter. So my first take home is, avoid added sugars. Now, we have about more than 65 names for these added sugars.
Thank you.
And
Because
it's
I
so,
know, yes, yes, please go ahead with these names, because I know there are hidden names in most of these non added gluten free, and I do not know what all names they come up with and get people attracted to the products. Please tell us all of these alternate names that we have for sugar.
so, okay, instead of actually confusing all of y'all with all these names, this is how I kind of tell my clients: it's easy. Look for the words, ending with O's, OSE. So any of those are type of sugars, like sucrose, fructose, all those O's are type of sugars. And the second easiest things, when you look at the ingredients, anything that you cannot pronounce, you don't want you don't want those things, because okay, the easiest way to remember: as you walk into the supermarket, the aisles that are right in the center, you got to be avoiding. Those are the aisles which has processed food, pre-packed food. And what should you be eating is from the natural source that is coming without any form of modification of humans. So those are the natural ones, the veggies, the dairies. So these are the ones you should be doing instead of packed processed food. and and of course, all of these and non-fats and all those things are also going to have some added taste enhancers, and also a form of sugars as well. So this is how you can easily remember. And one thing we must also understand, when we go on this kind of, when we are eating on a continuous way on these diets, and or when we are like going on a particular type of diet for a longer period, you can literally go into nutrition imbalance as well. So that's very serious when you want to lose weight, because like if you have a deficiency in omega 3, or if you're deficient in zinc or even magnesium, you're going to have a trouble in losing weight. So we need to make sure that you're having the right sources of food and not focusing on one type. I'll tell you, I'll give you more explanation why I'm saying that when I start talking about my second point, that is something that many don't think about. So my second cause would be that we fail to attend or pay attention to our good gut bacteria, our microbiomes. So I actually think this is the topic that people don't talk much when it comes to weight loss, right?
Not
So
really. Not really, because I remember when you said gut bacteria to me, and I was like, okay, I thought I had knowledge about, what is, causing us weight. And when you said gut bacteria, I was like, zipped. I was like, okay.
because that's very important, and I learned it when I had to fix myself. And with all this research and everything, there are enough studies now emphasizing and giving us also evidence that we should be now caring for these guys. So we have trillions of bacteria living with us, and they're in our gut, they're on our skin, and all sort of thing, or literally they're with us through from the birth. And they're not only going to help us now, these gut bacteria, they're not only going to help us to break down the food and help our body absorb all the nutrients, but they're like the first line defense. So they are the ones who detect as soon as a virus or bacteria enters into your system, and they're the ones who sense a immediate communication to your brain. So I like to call my gut as the second brain, and this is your first brain. So there's a great communication happening all the time. And right now, what we are all facing, the pandemic, and wanting to prevent falling ill, you got to take care of these guys, and you got to have good gut bacteria as well. And another thing, the most importantly, it is your gut bacteria that influences your mood. So if you are in a happy mood, that means you have those good guys doing that work for you. And also, related to our topic today, yes, it is these gut bacteria that are going to help you in losing weight or gaining weight. So I wanted to actually talk about a couple of studies that I I like, and that will literally give you some evidence and also make a better understanding. Like there was a study done in gut flora, and they found that these gut flora determines your weight metabolism as well. So the study, what they did was they did it in other mammals. So they took some gut bacteria from a thin mouse, and they put it inserted into the fat mouse. And despite of changing their diet, they found this fat mouse started losing weight. So that means there are type of bacteria that you got to be having in your gut if you want to lose weight, and vice versa. So in another study, they found that these bacteria will influence your body, how much energy it's going to absorb from this food, and how much nutrients it's going to have. So literally from nutritionally and energetically, these are the guys who are going to decide how much they're going to absorb. So if that is true, imagine you have been eating all those type of food that I mentioned that you got to be avoiding for a longer time. And all of a sudden, you want to start eating clean, go into healthy eating. You may have to now start doing this for a little bit of longer period in order to make sure that you bring these good guys back. So people who have a greater amount of particular bacteria. Now, the studies have now even gone to the extent of telling us the names of these bacteria. So, like a bacteria called firmicutes. So, people who have greater amount of firmicutes, like if the proportionate is like above 60%, that means you will start gaining weight, because these are the guys who like to feed in sugar, bad fats, junk food. And this is why sometimes you end up craving for these things. And this is because these guys are present in a larger proportion compared to the good guys. So, and another problem is your gut bacteria determines your inflammation as well. So they could lead into leaky gut, and eventually autoimmune issues and so on. So when you have inflammation in your cells, that means your insulin, you're going to become insulin resistant. So again, you are going to start storing more fat. So now look at the links for all these things, right? And if I to just give you an understanding, we have nearly 6,000 varieties of bacteria, nearly, right? You can be having more. And they like to feed in different types of food. So imagine if you're eating only one type of food, despite whether it's any type of diet, or even if you're eating only sugary food or whatever, you're only going to have a small diversity of these guys. And we humans need to have a variety of them. That's how we are programmed, and that's how we have been created. So this is why you need to have a diversity. And the ways you can, I wanted to also tell you the ways you can destroy the good guys is by, as I said, the habits, and also your sleeping patterns. Lack of sleep can be destroyed. Your stress, your food, what I mentioned, and antibiotics. Too much of alcohol can kill your good bacteria. And so all these things, right, will play a role in maintaining a good gut flora. Now that you know everything about that, I want to also give you a little bit of hint on how you can improve, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh my God, now what do I do to bring those guys back?
Please do.
So, so one thing is, as I said, because of the diversity, you need to have go into prebiotic food. So prebiotic food are all the greens which are rich in fiber, all the veggies that you need to be eating. And I like to even consume a lot of diverse greens in raw, because that's going to help us have the right fiber. And it's not only going to feed your good bacteria, but also having a good set of fiber is going to suppress your hunger. So your appetite is going to go down. And this is something very helpful for people who wants to lose weight. Secondly, is your probiotics. So probiotics you can find in fermented food. Every culture I have seen, I'm actually doing some research at the moment. There's some form of fermented food in their cuisine. So kefir is one, that's something similar to, a fermented form of dairy, which has lots of good bacteria. And the other one is a good for probiotic is uh, fermented veggies like kimchi, the Korean recipe. And we have now in supermarkets, I've shared free recipes in my social media and my website as well, so you can go and check. And also there's sauerkraut. Again, those are fermented. Any pickled veggies are fermented, but you may want to read the label if you're going to buy something from the store, because these days pickles does have some sort of added additives and so on. So easy way, just put any veggies in salt water and keep it for a couple of days, and it'll obviously will get fermented. So that's something that is very important. And the last one will be polyphenol food. So all the berries, the raw cocoa. And of course, a good quality red wine in a moderate level can also help you bring in these polyphenols. Along with, you can have green tea. All these things are going to be very helpful as well. And one more thing I wanted to talk about, especially during this pandemic, a lot of people have been overly doing with antiseptic. And I told you we have good bacteria on our skin as well. So there is a possibility while you're destroying the baddies, you may have destroyed the good guys as well. So now we may have to slow down on those. I'm not saying not to use, but if you can slow down or avoid strong antiseptics, that will be good. And also consider walking in nature. I've done videos on those. It's available in YouTube. Doing some gardening, getting your hands dirty will also help you good bacteria. So these are the ways that you can get bacteria. So go into gardening, touch the soil for 15 minutes frequently, let your kids play out. That's going to bring those good bacteria. And go to the park and just go for a walk frequently, because there are good bacteria around the trees. And I have given further explanation and how to do it. Walk barefoot if you can in your garden, touch the soil. We need these things now. So these are like going back to the basics.
I
So
told the audience to sit with a pen and paper. See, you always make me sit with a pen and paper. This is such good information, and this it's brilliant how you can keep yourself prepared, even though you do are going to use all of these sanitizers. I love the idea that you said, get your hands a little bit in the soil, and work with that. Things that you said about food intake, and prebiotic food, that's something I'll definitely go ahead and look into. Now I have something else that I have been reading your website. I have been part of the website, and I do know that you are a believer and about fasting and the different types of fasting. I am also into intermittent fasting, but I know there are different types. And if you could just enlighten the audience as to what is fasting and how healthy it is, and different forms of it.
okay, so fasting is my favorite tool for not only to lose weight, but fasting is an ancient tool that we all need to, if we know the benefits and if we know to how to make use of this tool, it's basic. It'll literally give you an ease out from everything. You can heal your body, you can reverse some disease, you can slow down your aging process, you can maintain your health, and that's all we need, right? Right.
Yes.
So in my way of understanding fasting is, um, I'll just give you a basic, because fasting, it will take a couple of episodes for me to explain, right? So I'm going to give you a basic understanding. I know many of you who had joined us today as well will know different types of fasting and may have, I mean, Ramadan fasting is something, a form of intermittent fasting and so on. So we are all we have been exposed to this kind of culture, no matter which religion or which culture we come from, right?
Yes.
But now what we got to do, understanding the science and the research and the studies, we now need to understand why we are doing it and how different types of fasting is going to help different people. Because that's something where we need a lot of information and be educated on. So to I relate the fasting according to the weight gain now, right? For the weight gain, what we basically need to understand, we have two types of fuel to run this body. One is sugar, and the other one is fat. Many of us are using sugar as a fuel, right? And how do we know that? Is if you skip your breakfast and if you feel so tired, and if you feel this is so too much to ask, that means it's a sign that your body is burning from sugar.
Okay.
Or when you get when you're skipping meals, you get hungry and you're annoyed, irritated, that means your body is using sugar. Or another way, if you don't have enough mental clarity, you can't decide, or you get stuck all the time, that means when you don't eat, that means you're running on sugar. Lastly, during the course of the day, by the time you reach midday, if you're feeling tired, that means you're running out of sugar. Because if you're fat burning machine, that you will not have all these symptoms. So our goal is our body, we have our own intelligence. We were born with that. Our body has its own intelligence to protect itself, to run all these things and clear out all the nasties from our body, right? What we need to do is to help our body. So, and our body is meant to be running as a fat burning machine, but we are not helping that, right? So fasting is a great tool to do that, despite of all other things. Because I have tried several diets. I have tried different, I have been vegan for a while. I have tried all these things. But when I combine fasting along with this and along with taking care of gut health, that's when things are falling in place. So I wanted to quickly see if I can share a graph to explain
Please
how
do.
fasting can help. Let me just see if I can open this.
Oh,
Okay,
yes, we can see a screen.
you can see the screen.
Yes.
I'm just seeing if I can go for the full view. Okay, there you go. So that's a graph which I just drew. I'm sorry if it's not very neat.
It's
So,
very personal.
so as you can see, you know, like when for example, as soon as we eat, right, on your, you can see the glucose level will be high. So, for example, if you had the moment you eat and if you take your glucose reading, it's going to be somewhere uh, above 100. And for example, you eat your dinner, you wake up in the morning and you do a blood test, your sugar will be around 100. And if you have been on ketosis and if you had been on fasting and all those lifestyle, your sugar will come down to 70 or 90. So when you eat a meal, it causes a spike depending on how much sugar your meal had been the previous time, right? Over time, your blood sugar level will start to drop.
Hmm.
So this is typically around when you reach 13 hours. So you're eating for the night before, you sleep for 7 to 8 hours, and you come down. You skip your breakfast. 13 hours. When you reach 13 hours, which is literally the intermittent fasting, right?
Yes.
Your sugar level will drop enough, right?
Yes.
And it starts signaling your liver to secrete ketones. That's the red line. So that means with time, when the sugar drops down, your ketones are going to start hiking up.
Interesting.
And we need ketones. Ketones, when you see ketones in your blood, that means your body is literally shifted to a fat burning machine. So
Oh,
that's the sign. So when you have ketones, it'll literally go into your mitochondria. Mitochondria are these energy factories, which we have hundreds and thousands of mitochondria in every cell. And we need those guys because those are the ones which will take your food and oxygen and give you energy, right? So these mitochondria will get these ketones and then they will start getting healing because these mitochondria are very important in our metabolic rate, right? They're the ones when scientists talk about metabolic rate, your metabolism, that they're referring to how fast your mitochondria can burn your calories. So we got to have these guys functioning well. So and also these ketones will start traveling to your brain as well, and they feed your brain as well. And if you're a sugar burner, you will get frustrated not losing weight. And that's because of this, because the time it's going to take, depending on the last meal you took, the type of meal you took, the time is going to be longer. So now let's see what's happening after 13 hours. So now you have fasted for 13 hours, and your weight loss is really going to happen from 13 hours onwards. So the longer you stay in a fasted state, your ketones are going to increase and your sugar is going to keep dropping. That's when your growth hormones are going to come out as well. So growth hormones again is very important to burn your fat, slow down your aging process. It's very critical because once we hit 30 years age, our growth hormones are going to slow down. So we need to have more growth hormones in order to slow down our aging process. So this is very important as well.
Yes.
So the weight loss zone is from 13 to 24 hours. That's why I have highlighted that there. So
Okay.
if you want to lose weight, you got to stay in this 13 to 24 hours period. That is intermittent fasting. And the sweet spot is when you can is where that is where I have shown 24 to 36, or you can even go up to 48. That is your sweet spot. So I have had people coming up to me and saying, okay, we've tried the diets, we've been on ketosis for a while, we are working out, doing everything right, but after a while our weight is not dropping, it comes to a plateau, and that's your stubborn weight.
Yes.
So for that, you got to go into longer hours of fasting. So that's something where that's when you start hitting your sweet spot, and you go into 24 hours, at least up to 36 hours. So another important point you should know. Now, some people fast for 18 hours and then they break the fast, right? Say you break the fast with a higher sugary meal food or carbs, then the curve that is going to come down on the next day, the time is going to get longer. It's not going to be 13 hours, it might be 15 hours. It's going to
Oh,
get delayed.
oh my.
So, so now fasting is important. Breaking fast is also important. And how you break fast is also important. So this is where the whole understanding comes with intermittent fasting. And so I personally would recommend, okay, you should be fasting at least, doing this 24, if you're doing something like intermittent fasting, you should be at least fasting, doing 24 hours water fast at least once a week or something, so that.
That was going to be my next question. I do know that you are, you have a lot of education on water fasting, and not many people are educated on that. My friends and I, we are on 16 hours intermittent fasting. We're planning to move on to 18, but 16 itself becomes so difficult. And now, when you say that we need to go on a 24 hours water fasting, so that is something we're not, even I do not have much knowledge about, but I have heard about it. If you could just like take 2 minutes and tell us about water fasting.
Okay, one thing is, never jump straight away into any fast. Because that's something, biggest mistake many do. Because remember, our body needs to get used to this, and our mind needs to get used to this. You need to know the real why you're doing this, because that's very important. I started by writing it in my mirror in big bold letters. Why am I doing fasting? Because when you hit these points, your body will talk you out, because your body is your mind and it's so used to eating all these things, and it like, oh, forget it, tomorrow, why are you doing this, it's not going to work. All these chatters will start, and it will literally make you go into a suffering mode and come out of it and make it look harder. So water fast, my recommendation, you should be gradually increasing it. So if you're a startup or even somebody, I would ideally say start by pushing your breakfast 1 hour, so 13 hours, and then slowly, gradually go to 15 hours. and 17 hours. It could literally take a week or two or even a month, but just gradually do it. But what you need to do is make sure that you're breaking the fast with good fats. You're not overly eating carbs. And if you're following keto or something, then make sure that you're doing it in that right way. You're bringing
Right.
in all those varieties, you're feeding the gut bacteria. So when you're doing that, when you come to 17,
Mm.
it's not going to be hard. And then
Okay.
you push it to 18 and 19, 20, and eventually when you hit 24. Now remember, 17 itself is a great time, because 17 is when you hit 17. Now when you hit 15, that's when you start getting the ketones. I told you that's good. But when you hit 17, you're going to have autophagy. Autophagy is when your body now knows, okay, this woman is not going to give me any food, and I'm bored of eating fat. So what do I do? So your cells start looking for source, and that's when your body start going into cellular detoxing. That's when your body starts eating up all the toxins that are stored in your cells. That's when all the dead cells are going to be scavenged. So your body is literally eating up all these nasties that it had been holding for years and years and years. And that's when autophagy is a really beautiful phase. And there's enough studies. I have enough proof and research that has given us these benefits. And autophagy is the time where you can literally reverse the aging process, because
Wow.
you're going to do all those things. And now, when you go to the 24 hours fasting, you're basically going to heal your intestinal lines. Now, that's very important. And that's when the stem cells are going to be produced. Now, we all heard about stem cells and all
Yes.
these things. Okay, briefly, why do you need stem cells? Because that's going to rejuvenate the entire body. And this is the time your brain is going to get the notification saying, hey, release those happy hormones. So the neurotransmitters like GABA is going to be released. You're going to
Mm.
be in peace. The happy hormones, the dopamine, serotonin, all these things are going to be released. And this is why it is very important. And that's the time your age is going to be reversed. Your toxins are coming out.
Mm.
And it's very important when you're in water fast, you're drinking enough of good water so that you have all the antioxidants and you'll have enough water to flush out these toxins. So you're not going to have these headaches, the crankiness, all these things. It's going to get so. I love to encourage people to go on water fast, but of course with the right guidance, so that you don't fall out of it and you don't do it the wrong way, and you have somebody, at least for the first time, you have somebody guiding you. So in that way, uh, and also I really encourage people to check your have a way of checking your glucose and ketones level very frequently
Mm.
if you're going to practice water fasting, because that's very important. You need to know how much sugar your insulin level is, and you're not dropping it very low. And you need to make sure that your ketones are in the right amount. So even zero point 0.5 reading of ketones is
Mm.
good enough.
So how long should we water fast? Like approximately.
Now, in a general, again, it depends on the individual, but in a generic way, once a week at least. So,
And
like I like to say, you do intermittent fasting in different forms, and
yes.
you do 17 hours some days, you do 15 hours some days, and you manage your macros. You are not eating too much of proteins and all those things, and you go into this ketobiotic diet,
Mm.
which I love about is because you're feeding your gut as well, and then you go into 24 hours or 36. Now I do 36 once a week, and that's my lifestyle.
So you say, for people who are doing any kind of diet or not even doing diet for that matter, should at least go on a minimum of 24 hours only water diet.
Not immediately.
No,
Some
but
people, yeah,
24
some
hours is a
people
good time.
you should, I would say, start with at least 15 hours,
Okay. All right.
17 hours,
Okay.
not
That makes
24
sense.
hours. And then somebody who is practiced and comfortable, when you're comfortably doing 19, then you can go for 24 hours.
Okay.
So somebody, so for your question, like if somebody hadn't done any form of diet,
Yes.
anything,
It's difficult.
you cannot jump in fasting immediately. You need to know how you're breaking the fast. Are you bringing in all these varieties? So ideally, I think I was mentioning to you the other day, you got to have at least 5 to 8 servings
Yes.
of greens.
Yes.
And if you're fasting, if you're breaking the fast, are you feeding your gut bacteria with fermented food, a lot of kimchis and a lot of these things? So these are all important. I never believe any one type of pattern will help us, because that's my experience.
this this is a topic that we can go on forever, and I actually had a list of questions, but I'm just so engrossed with what you have to say, and I'm just looking at it. We are like at a crunch of time, so I'll
Yeah,
just like ask one, two, three more questions like immediately, and then I want to get into the audience because it
sure.
seems like they do have a lot of questions of their own. Before I get into the next one, I do know that you're starting off with a reboot program,
Hmm.
something that you're looking at. But before you answer that, I want to know. So on the day that we are on a water fast, what if you're hungry for food? What do
Okay.
you do?
You won't be hungry, because remember I told you what causes the hunger is if you're feeding yourself with carbs.
Okay.
Now, I will when I explain to you about my program, I'll tell you a little bit on that also. So basically, when you reach, if you are practicing this fasting on a gradual increase, and if you're also practicing ketogenic diet,
Mm.
then there's no way you will feel hungry. Why? Because you're not feeding sugar.
Okay.
Your body is using fat as a fuel burner.
Okay.
So then, of course, your hike, there's no transient hike as
Mm.
you eat. And when you eat good fat, you're still going to be, your curve is going to be very slow.
Okay.
So good fat will also suppress your hunger, and your appetite is going to be suppressed if you're feeding all these varieties of 8 cups of greens and all salads and everything. If you're doing that, of course you're not going to feel hungry.
Boom.
But if you're breaking your fast with rice,
Mm.
which you should not be doing ideally if you want to lose weight, then of course a transient hike, the way the speed that it goes up,
Mm.
the speed that is going to come down, so you're going to feel hungry faster.
Okay.
So this is why when you eat sugary food, you feel
The
hungry.
hike.
Yeah, so
Yes. The
it won't,
fluctuation.
you won't feel hungry.
My God, I'm very scared now. I'll have to make sure that my IF is like really taken care of. But thank you so much, Kiru, because even though I was into intermittent fasting, and I know a lot of my friends in the audience are into intermittent fasting, and we kept asking this question to each other as to, we're doing it so diligently, and it wasn't really as effective as, we expected it to be. Maybe there are certain things that we're doing wrong, and you've actually enlightened us with that kind of knowledge. So thank you. Please go ahead and tell us about the reboot program that you have coming up.
Okay, the reboot program, basically, as you correctly said, right? The whole purpose of me designing this program is because people came up to me in the past wanting to, needing help to lose weight and everything. They have tried certain types of diet, but not fasting. Some had tried fasting, and then they found it's not working after a while. So they got stuck. So with all these things, and with my expertise and the research and everything, I brought a program where it's called Reboot 15. Let me see if I can share it with you. Then it will be easy to also.
I've they've also shared the link on the chat as well
Okay.
for your yes.
Oh, you have?
Yes,
Okay.
Santosh just thank you.
So yeah. So then it's easy. So I don't need to. Um, so let me see if I can. Okay. So that's the Reboot 15, and that's the link. So basically, what you can expect from this, it's basically you will lose weight. And obviously, to answer your question, you don't need to starve. So, and also this program is unlike other programs. It's not all about going into, working out in the gym, exercising. Of course, exercising is there, but I only talk about 10 minutes exercise. And it's simple as that. And also it's going to, I will gradually pick you up. You don't need to be an expert in fasting. You don't need to be someone who had tried these different types of ketogenic diets. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build your body and create this in a gradual way, step by step, and managing your blood sugar. And in such a way, it's not only going to help you lose weight, but you're going to be able to repair your damaged gut and build a good set of microbiomes, because I'm going to also guide you in the type of food that you should be eating with the recipes. And so, because a lot of people get stuck when I say, okay, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat that. So they're like, what do we eat? Because obviously you're not going to be eating lentils and all these things. So you get stuck. So there's varieties I'm going to be giving with the recipes, and it's easily, the ingredients can be found easily. And then ideally, this is mainly for these kind of people who had put on weight. And one more thing I wanted to harp on in this program is, while you're doing all these things, especially focusing the stubborn weight and those belly fat and so on, you will be also able to correct some of these things, like if you're having headache, or if you cannot fall asleep, if you have been having any dull skin, and and also diabetes, arthritis, all these things can be, it's not, I'm not claiming as a medical alternate for your medications, but this will help. But of course, anyone with these kind of conditions will need to inform their doctor and before coming
Take.
in.
Yeah.
And so I've got and also this is I have tried this, and we have seen great results. There's great testimonies that you can find in my site as well. And there's a special offer for early birds, and everything is on my site, so you can find that. And yeah, so that's basically my Reboot 15. Reboot 15 is to literally heal yourself. And one thing you will also benefit is you will be able to boost your immune system against this virus, because that's very important, right? And it's going to address your stress as well. So people who are stressed at that now, and especially in fear and everything, because I will also give some guidance on how to de-stress yourself while you're doing, what kind of meditations you can do. So it's a wholesome package, because um, if you want to achieve health, you cannot be doing in one side, just run in one path. You got to be doing with in all paths, and it has to be in. And I like this because it's science, and it's science-based tools. And I have tried it, seen results. People in other parts of the world have tried, and it works. So
Thank
that's the
you.
first time I'm doing this actually online, though, because of the
Oh,
current changes.
I would like all the audience. I know that there are a lot of questions. I will take 3 or 4 questions. But if you do need to get in touch with Hero, please do, because there are certain questions that are personal, and that I think a one-on-one with her would be a more advisable thing to do. Kiru, just before I get into the audience, I have one last question. I swear.
No
Can you
problem.
tell me about the book that you're going to launch? I'm not sure if I can ask, but I want to.
Okay. It's basically it's going to be based on ketobiotic. So we have enough information on keto diet and the recipes and everything. So it's a recipe book,
Okay.
with not only giving you recipes, but giving a basic understanding about the foods and the quality and what's happening around us right now. And all what I explained, I'm going to give you in detail. Okay, it's literally giving guidance how you can go about doing this kind of diets along with taking care of your gut. So
Okay.
that's the book I'm actually planning. And also, I'm doing a lot of research on this in different cuisines. My aim is to try and give options for different cultures and different cuisines. So, in that way, you're not going to be missing your, uh, you know, taste, and you're not going to be missing your favorite food. There will be some alternates, and you still can enjoy your favorite food with the limitations. So in that way, you can. So for example, you still can drink a good chocolate milk.
Okay. All right. Perfect. That sounds amazing. So I do have a few questions from